Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I wanted to have another look at the Bighorn exotic assault rifle. This assault rifle was launched in TU8 with the introduction of the legendary strongholds. It was one of the hardest and rarest weapons to obtain in game, and whilst on paper this is technically speaking the highest DPS assault rifle out there, it was incredibly underwhelming as it had a very small mag, a pretty terrible recoil pattern and no damage talent. And whilst its per bullet damage was technically higher than every other AR, the lack of damage talent, the frequent reloads and the frequent missed shots just equated to a pretty poor experience. Luckily, Massive have decided to buff this weapon several times over, and we're finally in a situation where I believe with the specific build that I'm running, you will have a much better time with this weapon. Honestly, in TU12, Bighorn is phenomenal. I've been running this a lot in heroic content. I've yet to try in legendary content purely because I feel that the more niche builds aren't as viable in legendary, and you just want to go for, just a better, well-rounded build overall. But I am going to be playing this in legendary after Christmas and New Year, and potentially look at some changes if I feel it can perform in a different way. But honestly, for heroic content, solo or group, this is awesome. This build performs so well. It hits like an absolute truck, and you can really melt bosses with literally zero missed shots. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that. Before we do get into that, I do want to thank you all for the continued support of the channel, and if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We are really close to 6k, which for the channel being up for about half a year, I'm really happy with that. It's, far better growth than I ever expected, so thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Don't forget to hit that notification icon as well if you'd want to be notified of future build videos. I predominantly cover PvE and PvP build videos. If you go into my playlist, you'll see for Division 2, but I do also cover Destiny 2 to a lesser extent as well. The usual format, I will put the timestamps in the description, so please go to the specific part of the video if you want. I don't flood my videos with ads, so you don't need to worry about any interruptions, apart from the initial one at the start, of course. So the way that I'll usually do it is I'll first go through where to obtain the weapon. We'll then look at how the weapon works, including its recoil pattern, as I think this is a very important thing that people need to know. We'll then look at the build, and then finally I'll leave you with some gameplay footage, a bit of heroic solo content, so you can just see how the build performs. So let's get started. The weapon is obtained from any legendary content as of I think it was TU11 they brought Summit in, although I could be wrong there. Initially in TU8 you had to obtain this from one of the bosses on the 3 legendary strongholds, and it was about a 10% drop chance. Now I might be wrong on that statistic, so please correct me if I am in the comments. But even if you had assault rifle targeted loot, it wouldn't actually improve the drop chance of the Bighorn. Now I believe the same rule applies into the legendary Summit. Yes, this weapon does drop in Summit as long as you are on Legendary. I believe it only drops from boss kills, so you might need to be every 10th floor that you have an opportunity to get this. I'm unsure if it can drop from rogue agents. I have personally had one of these drop from a boss on actually the second day that the Summit ever came out. So I know for a fact it does drop there, but I believe it's probably still that 10% drop chance that isn't impacted by targeted loot. So your best bet is just to get in there, stick on AR targeted loot anyway, just in case it does buff the chance, and hope that you come across some bosses and rogue agents. So the exotic rifle has a very unique talent. Now before we get into that, we'll have a quick look at what it offers. Being an assault rifle, of course, it's 21% health damage max, which is fantastic, as the hardest hitting and most dangerous NPCs in the game are usually heavies and warhounds, both of which are health only targets. But every single target in the game has health. Yes, some of them have armor on top of that health, but the point is that you will always, at some point, be taking advantage of that massive amount of health damage with any target that you shoot, which is fantastic. The minor attribute is critical hit damage. It's a shame that it's not damage to armor or damage to targets out of cover, but it's still a damage buff with crit damage, so I'm not going to complain about that. The talent has 2 parts now. The first part is the original talent, which is quite simply when you click your scope button, which I know for controllers it's simply your right analog stick. You go into a semi-automatic fire mode. So that means you need to repeatedly press your right trigger or mouse button to essentially fire the gun, but it does give you 450% weapon damage with each shot. We now have a new additional talent. So the first part that they buffed was the mag size. It went from 30, which was just stupid. It just didn't work, and it forced you to use the scope mode, which I think you need to be hitting those about 50-50. We now have 40 in the mag, but we also have this new headshot talent that has been buffed, I believe, 2 times now. So headshots actually grant 2% headshot damage now, and this stacks up to 50 times. So that is an additional 100% headshot damage, which is amazing. Once you're at those full stacks, they do start to decay, 10 stacks every 4 seconds to be precise, but until all of the stacks have been removed. However, headshots actually delay the decaying of stacks. Now this is a very recent change that took this weapon from pretty above average to one of the best assault rifles in the game when using the correct build. And I know that it is a bit of a niche weapon, and you may just be more comfortable using a Burnout or a FAMAS or a Police M4, but this new talent is superb. It works really well when used with this build, and I can't wait to show you exactly how that works. Now whilst the stability and accuracy seem kind of high, they are a little bit low with this weapon, so I'm going to quickly demonstrate what the recoil pattern is and why this weapon was so hated when it first came out, or at least one of the reasons. So if you have a look at the wall over here, and I'm not going to control my right analog stick, all I'm going to do is just free fire. I'm going to obviously stay zoomed in, but I'm just going to pull the right trigger until I empty the mag. And what you'll see, as I've actually tested over here, is it has this weird recoil pattern where it fires the first bullet and then kicks up and does this sort of top right, nearly vertical kick. So that's a pretty messy recoil. It's not very nice, and considering this weapon rewards you for hitting headshots, it doesn't really do what you need it to do, and that is one of the big problems of the weapon. Now I have resolved that completely with this build, luckily, but yeah, that's just something to bear in mind. I'll put this on an invulnerable target just here, just to demonstrate essentially what the talent does. So ignore the damage numbers as I'm using a couple of things that haven't procced, but we see it says 0 on the side of the gun. Just by landing headshots, you see that's gone up. So at 34, now this isn't decaying at the moment because we haven't hit max stack, so you can see my headshot damage, 855 on a crit, 864, 868, 904. Right, now look at the right side of the gun. You see that red bar? Every 4 seconds that will drop down 10. However, we can interrupt that and increase the stacks at the same time. So not only are you stopping it from going down, you're actually forcing it to go back up, and if you keep finding targets to shoot before your stacks run out, it's quite rare, unless you come into a new room from a bit of a walk from the previous room, that your stacks will ever get that low. You can just keep shooting stuff. And honestly, this build makes it really easy to do that. So nice and easy talent. Zooming in gives you this mode. Now this, you'll get some insane damage numbers. So we're talking bigger than a lot of the optimized M1A builds. So I'm hitting 4.1 million damage there, which is... that's pretty ridiculous. That's obviously for a crit, but we'll come to that in a second. So that's how the weapon works. We'll have a quick look at the build, then we'll load into that mission. What you want to do with your build, I know a lot of people say spec into headshot damage. I disagree entirely. You do want Providence to give you some headshot damage, as you can see from the chest piece here. But what you want to do is spec entirely into crit chance and crit damage, because certain enemies don't have headshot damage. And as this is an incredibly hard-hitting AR, it does really pack a punch. You want your crit chance and crit damage to be as high as possible to make up for the lack of headshot damage on those particular enemies. And that is my absolute suggestion for this build. The way that you want to achieve that is by hitting 10% on your watch. You want to run 2 pieces of Providence, as you get 15% headshot damage, which is fantastic for this weapon, and 10% crit chance. And then you want to run 1 piece of Seska for the additional crit chance. You can see my Seska holster has crit chance and crit dam rolled. The same for this very handsome looking triple god roll Providence chest. And then we've got the Fenris here as well to buff our base damage, as buffing the base damage of the weapon that you're using buffs headshot damage, which buffs crit damage. It's all a chain that keeps moving on to buff every aspect of your damage. So you definitely want the Fenris in there. You want to rock the double Providence for the headshot and the crit chance. You want the Seska, and then in my opinion, the best in slot for your gloves will be the Contractors, because we don't have any damage to armor on this build. By having both damage to armor on your gloves and damage to health on your weapon, you are covering every type of damage in the game, outside of damage to targets out of cover, which is fantastic. Now you may notice that I'm using Soy's knee pads here. These are amazing because they give you a 30% weapon damage buff, which is pretty insane, just for sitting in cover for 10 seconds. And if you move, you actually retain that 30% for an additional 10 seconds, at which point it essentially disappears. By that time you should already be in a new cover, a new sort of place in the map where you can get back into cover. So the trick is to just sort of be in cover as much as possible with this build, but you can freely move around. People think that Soys you have to stay glued. That's not true at all. Yes, your damage will go back down to 0, but if you're already in cover after that 10 seconds of moving runs out, it's going to instantly start building up again, so you're always getting additional damage here. And the other advantage is it gives us 1 blue on the build, so our armor is now 913k. On top of all of that, we can't even be staggered by explosions, so if you're ever in cover, you won't be knocked out of cover, which is again an awesome feature. Very, very good. I highly recommend that you run these on this build, but if you don't like the idea of sort of having to sit still too much, then just run Fox's Prayer here. The talents that we are using are braced, as this increases our weapon handling by 45%. Now, just to reiterate, for those that aren't aware, weapon handling is very similar to skill efficiency. It is at a 1-for-1 ratio. It increases 4 things on your weapon: stability, accuracy, reload speed, and swap speed. That is 45% stability on a weapon that has really bad recoil, and it turns it into an absolute laser. Just to very quickly demonstrate that, you saw the original recoil pattern just over here. Now again, I'm not going to move this at all. Watch the new recoil pattern. Now that made it like I was controlling that. I do promise you that my hand was not on the right analog stick at all there. It's ridiculous. And, you know, people will say, and have said to me in the past, well, braced isn't a damage talent. Why don't you just run obliterate, as it's an 800 RPM? Why don't you run unbreakable for the survivability? Glass cannons, you can just sit back and headshot. All fantastic choices, and if you prefer those, by all means go for them. But braced is a damage talent. Yes, it is. I know people say it's not, but it absolutely is, because you miss so few shots and you reload so fast that your DPS skyrockets. Obviously, glass cannon will do more damage overall, but you're at such a risk with glass cannon, and I really don't think it's a good damage talent in TU12. As you know, heroic content is a lot easier than it used to be. I think obliterate is better, but honestly, braced does equate to more DPS because you are missing far fewer shots. You are reloading far less of the time, as it is an instant reload. Super fast reload. Look at that. I mean, if I just stay zoomed in, reload, and go straight back to firing, watch the speed of this. It's hardly a break at all. It's insane. So braced absolutely is more DPS, and I apologise for repeating myself there, but a lot of people have questioned my thoughts on braced, and I just wanted to sort of clarify why I think it is so good, and hopefully you'll agree with me on that. We are pairing it with composure, as of course braced does require us to be in cover to obtain that massive handling buff. Composure gives us a total weapon damage buff of 15%. Now, yes, again, I can already hear the people out there saying, well, vigilance is 25%. You're absolutely right, it is. This is one of the hardest hitting weapons in the game. You will be pulling aggro like you've never done before outside of using my pestilence build. Trust me, that thing is an aggro magnet. So what's the point in having 25% weapon damage for not getting hit when you're constantly getting hit? This is just 15% all the time, and for the most part it will equate to more damage over the course of an entire mission than vigilance with this build, because it's always 15%. It doesn't get interrupted. You just got to be in cover. And of course Sawyer's pairs with this because, again, for staying still, or essentially being in cover, that's a further 30% weapon damage. Now, if you had Fox's Prayer here, you'd have 15% weapon damage plus 8% damage to targets out of cover. This is 30% total weapon damage, so it just offers more damage than Fox's. But as I said before, if you prefer Fox's, then you can just go for that. So that's why I recommend braced and composure with Sawyers, because we're getting a ridiculous amount of weapon damage with one of the best talents for weapon handling, if not the best talent in the game, that makes this weapon a laser. And ultimately, when you look at the talent, the whole point of this weapon is to land headshots. So why wouldn't you, make it super stable, super reliable? So that's enough talk about the build. Apologies if I did repeat myself a few times there. I just really did want to hammer that point home. What I am now going to do is load into a solo heroic mission so that I can demonstrate exactly how this all works. Right, so what I've decided to do was come to an invaded mission, as Black Tusk missions are historically more difficult. They usually have Warhounds and Heavies, which I think are going to be a great way to demonstrate the strengths and potential weaknesses of this build. I'm not here just to give you a montage of awesome clips of how this weapon works and not include any of the stuff that, maybe shows how sometimes poorly a build can perform, because no build is perfect. So I feel this is a good mission that's a bit more difficult. I'm going to load into this solo and show you how it all performs. So we're going to go heroic. We're at Air and Space Museum. Wish me luck.
Black Tusk has already established a foothold here. Dislodging them isn't going to be easy.
Now, in terms of the specialization and the skills that you use, honestly, when you run braced, it doesn't actually make a difference. You can run whatever you want. I personally like Gunner because it gives you 10% armor on kill, but it's hard to hit him. Sharpshooter's really good as well. It doesn't give you headshot damage because this isn't classed as a rifle. I'm getting shot from behind. I am getting shot from behind. Who is there? But even out of cover, it still just decimated that guy. Look how stable it is. It's crazy. I'm hitting 2.1 million damage per shot. Yeah, so run if you prefer to run Sharpshooter, go for it. But I do think that Gunner is better because you get an additional 10% handling. So you can just literally melt. Oh, look at that. Look at the damage. It's just insane. Oh, see you later, buddy. See you later, mate. It was nice for you to show up. Oh no, these guys are pushing me. But yeah, you know, if you want to run firewall for the better med kit, if you...
Immediate medical assistance needed.
It really doesn't make a difference. You know, because braced and composure and sawyers are so good, you can literally get away with running anything. So I'll let you guys decide what you prefer there. But Gunner does have a very good armor kit. It gives us a 5% faster rate of fire when we get a kill, 50% faster reload every third reload. Yeah, it works really well. It's a really good choice. You know, at the end of the day, increased rate of fire and faster reloads equate to more damage, which is literally the point of this build. So I still think Gunner is your best choice. Now, the good thing is handling works when you hip fire as well. So if you watch, I'm going to hip fire this. Still getting some pretty big numbers here. And again, like these tanks here, damage to health, so this is where ARs are really good. Oh well, my action was only good. Ooh, I just got shot by 2 Warhounds at the same time. That is bad for your health. Imagine if I was on glass cannon, I wouldn't have even made it this far. How am I getting shot in the back from here? Oh, there's guys behind me again?
Serious trauma detected.
Okay, I don't know why, but there's always somebody behind me, which is not good news. Big damage numbers. And you see here, like, I'm still freely moving around and killing stuff. Yes, I know it's more efficient to stay perfectly still with sawyers, but you don't need to. Like, you can really just get away with still moving around.
System back online.
Oh, just melting them. Look at that chunk in his health down. Oh, it's crazy damage. And there we go. Could I have done that room better? Yes, absolutely. You know, one thing I ask of all of my subscribers, or just any of you that are watching this video right now, don't judge my builds based on how I play them, because I'm a pretty average gamer at best. You know, I do put a lot of time into theory crafting. I do a lot of number crunching, DPS testing in this game, so the information that I provide you is as accurate as it can be. But my own ability as a gamer definitely falls short in comparison to my knowledge of this game. So try the build out for yourself before you judge it. Don't just look at this and think, oh, you're just dying all the time and you can't move around. Honestly, just try it first. If you don't like it, give me a dislike. Let me know in the comments. You know, all I'm looking for here is honest feedback. But I think you will. I think more people will like this than dislike it, definitely, because it is really good. Oh, just melting these guys. Look at this, like, such minimal downtime. It's amazing. Oh, see you later, buddy. Oh, he's gone. Oops. And apparently I've completed the mission, according to this screen. What's going on here? There you go. I've completed the mission already. Congratulations.
Asymmetric encryption protocol.
Let's get back up to our little hardy hole.
I hope this encryption is to protect something juicy.
Try and get his crit plates if we can. So these guys don't have headshot damage, so I'm not taking advantage of the damage talent, but am I struggling to kill these? No. And I'm not running glass cannon, I'm not running obliterate. Just look how fast you melt it. And this is purely because this AR is such a powerful weapon. Its base damage is so high compared to other ARs that you can get away with not running a damage talent for the most part and still just melting content, as you can see right here. Oh, okay, that was confusing. I don't think I was supposed to come back down here. Like, half the time I'm not even going for headshots, and this is why I say don't spec into headshot damage. Yes, you want the providence, because the 15% is very noticeable, and obviously you get a critical hit chance for the second piece. But you don't need to. Like, crit chance and crit damage are key for this build. Just 3 tapping purples. And I've still got 40 stacks on the weapon, which is nice.
75% complete. Connection remotely terminated. Shit, we cut off the
I still think the best skills for this are the same skills that I use on most of my DPS weapon-based builds, which is a decoy and a res hive. You know, at the end of the day, no build is perfect, and you will go down from time to time, especially in solo content. It's a bit of a necessity. And the decoy is just better than the shield, especially for this build as it's an in-cover build. Woohoo! Look at this, look at this. The other advantage of Gunner is ARs can be a little bit ammo thirsty, and you get 10% of your ammo back every 60 seconds. That's also really good. What I'll do now, because I don't want to give you a whole mission, you know, you've got a good feel for how it performs against Warhounds and difficult enemies. What I'll now do is I'll skip to the boss so you can see exactly how it performs there. Right, so we're at the final boss area. I'm just going to quickly show you the final room here and see how well this performs against, well, a bunch of ads and a boss, and then we'll bring the video to a close. Now don't forget to leave your comments and opinions, your opinions in the comments even. Oh, I got that sentence completely wrong. I am genuinely curious to hear if anybody else has been picking up Bighorn. Obviously, a lot of us that follow the patch notes would have seen that it has been buffed a few times and, you know, may have considered running it. Have you got any build ideas that you think work better than this? Do you like the idea of this build? Have you already been running it with something different? I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I'm a big fan of this weapon since this update. I mean, just look at this. This is with Braced, everybody. Braced and Composure. Two very underrated talents. Why can't this guy's... Oh, that's why. It's on the wrong shoulder. Oh, my axe is so bad at this game. There's nothing I'm getting flinched. Why is shooting me from the left-hand side here? Oh, there he is. Oh, just get deleted. Oh, perfect. This is a damage to health boss, so... This should be a pretty good demonstration. Oh, is he rezzing people? Don't do that, buddy. Ooh, 823k per headshot. Oh, see you later, Red Bar. Get a quick armor kit off just to be safe here. That's what we're hitting on his head there. 471k. I don't think it counts as headshot damage on these. I'm not 100%. Oh, I guess it doesn't actually. That's interesting. We've still got damage to health though, so that's the most important thing. One shot. One shot. After we break through his helmet. That's the important bit.
It's probably bricked.
3.8 million.
Sure.
Crazy. So that's it. That's the build. Screenshot it if you would like to. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you all have a great Christmas and New Year. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.